I think Coach Carey alluded a little bit of that today during the presser down in Bloomington. You're seeing a little bit of this out of their offense, especially at the quarterback play. We'll talk a little bit more about my feelings on rotating Sorsby and Jackson in this ball game, and kind of how that may or may not have been the best thing to potentially do, especially on the type of day it was. But other than that, when you really look at it, they're just not at that high level offensively to get a lot of points on the board or garner a lot of yardage. And then the defense, they started back into their old habits of blowing coverage and letting people go down the field wide open. And you just can't do that against the number 2 ranked team in the country. They're gonna expose you, and they exposed IU on several of those times where they had some breakdowns, and JJ McCarthy exposed them and exploited them when they did that on the day. Looking at some of the statistical stuff here, let's see if I can get this all up and going here. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. Maybe be able to blow this up a little bit. Let's go down. Okay. Well, you can see here a little bit from this game, and kind of how it shook out. Overall, 163 yards of rushing for Michigan, which is a pretty good day for IU's defense to hold them to 163 yards. I think they held Corum to only, I think it was well under 100 yards. But you can see here out of IU's rushing offense, only 92 yards of rushing, 2.8 yards a carry. Just not good enough. At least Michigan is up to that 4.0, and that's what I talk about, the efficiency stuff. That's kind of the important mark to be at. They had a lot of negative yardages in this game, 36 overall. Then you look at the passing game, 14 of 29. Not great with the 2 interceptions, 140 yards, and then you can see McCarthy's day, 19 of 22, nearly perfect, 244 yards. And then, of course, the differential there in the yardage, as well as Michigan was a +4 on the day in the turnover battle, which is, again, against the number 2 ranked team in the country. When you turn the ball over 4 times in a game, you're going to get pretty exposed when you do those type of things. And also in the special teams, it wasn't great in terms of their coverage. They did have 1 inside the 20, but other than that, overall, the 2 big interceptions for 66 yards in return. One of them was, like I said, inside I believe it was down there around the 15, if I'm not mistaken. You just can't be careless with the football there. And especially when you're going to get points or potential points out of it, be it even though it may have just been a field goal, you still got to be good with the football. And you can't put yourself in a position where you're not getting points when you get down there. Big differential in the time of possession. IU was about 40% on the day on third down conversions. Michigan close to 50%, and then 2 for 2 on 4th down. And then here's the big category too, when you look at this, is red zone, 7 of 7 in the red zone. That's pretty darn good. 6 of those were touchdowns. That's a pretty good days of work down there for them. Michigan. Then statistic-wise, defensively, Casey had another strong game, as did Moore. Carr had a great day. He had 2 sacks on the day. I thought he was very productive in everything, as was Miles Jackson. Again, those 2 guys seemed to played pretty good against that Michigan offensive line, which is very stout. Overall, I thought they played pretty decently in that regard. And then into the some stats here as it pertains to starting position. And it's pretty obvious here when you look at it. Indiana in that first quarter, even though their average field position was their own 24, productivity-wise, they had the ball for almost 10 minutes in that first quarter, 4 or 6 on third downs, and they got 7 points. But when you look at this field position on the day, averaging starting field position was their own 23. And that's not good when you're having to try to drive the ball consistently 77 yards, 80 yards to get points. It's just not very good. And then if you flip it over and you look at Michigan's day, they started the third quarter from their 46, IU's 46. But most of the day, they were getting the ball with a short field, and it ended up being at the 45 on average for the day. And that right there is a huge, huge differential when you look at it from yardage perspective. You're talking a negative 22 yards in field position that IU was behind Michigan's. And that tells you a big story too, why it was 52-7. When you have short fields, man, it's tough to defend. And some of that was created by fumbles, as you can say, 3 possessions, fumble, interception is how they obtained it. I mean, right there is a big part of that third quarter and into the fourth quarter that ultimately led to field goal and 2 touchdowns. Just kind of shows you right there, it's going to be a tough day when you're not getting the greatest of field positions to start from that standpoint. Some of the things that I looked at here, IU's first drive, 3 plays and amassed a negative 1 yard of total offense. Now, you look at Michigan, their first 3 plays wasn't great either. They went 3 plays and out in a negative 11. Then IU's big drive came here with a 12-play, 60-yard drive. But you can see some of these things here. You got a 10-yard pickup, a 15-yard pickup. Those are some chunk plays down here. You get down here to the penalty again. That's causing IU some problems. Now, they overcame this one. They didn't overcome this one because the very next play, IU was in a 3rd and 7. They get called for a false start. Now it's 3rd and 12. You got the ball at the 16-yard line. The biggest thing for a quarterback mentality here is don't do anything that's going to prevent you from lining up and at least kicking a field goal. And what ends up happening, they throw an interception, and they returned it 38 yards, and then nothing came of that pickup there. And then IU came back again and got their first touchdown on the double pass from McCauley to Lucas on 44 yards. We'll look at some of this on film, but 7 plays, 77 yards, good solid drive for IU. And Michigan, again, very limited. Corum was only getting here's another sack that IU was able to get after that score. And the reality of it is if you don't throw a pick, the probability you could have been up 10-0 on the number 2 ranked team there in the first quarter. In that first quarter that IU pretty much had a pretty commanding control over. Then you go into the second quarter, and Michigan ties it up on 11-play drive. 2 big chunk plays there by Corum and Johnson. And then IU comes back, only a 5-play drive, turn it over. Then, here we go. 11-play drive, 87 yards. This cannot happen. You at least make them earn it in that regard. But, this is where you need to get a stop and get the ball back. But in that drive, here's 3rd and 6, 23-yard gain on 3rd and 6. That was the pass play. He was completely wide open on it. And then again, 14 yards, 18 yards to Barner. Like to have him, wouldn't you? Transfer from IU. And then all in all, it leads to their second touchdown. And as you can see, IU comes back, goes 3 and out again, and only a -6 yards in that regard. And Michigan drives it down 6 plays, 46 yards. You have the big play to Edwards for 16. And they took over this play on the 46-yard line, as you can see here, but 6 plays, 46 yards, and so forth and so on. And, those are the things that make it difficult on you as a football team when you are struggling and your field position is not helping you. And you're giving short fields to the number 2 ranked team in the country, one of the top offenses in the country. And, they put it on you that way. So things really got away from IU there in that latter part of the second quarter and giving up the scores that they did. Michigan scored, I think, 52 unanswered points after that first quarter for the most part. Just a day that started off in pretty decently and turned to real bad from that standpoint on. But we'll take a look here in a second at some video. And when you really look at this, honestly, when you're playing the number 2 ranked team in the country and man for man, they probably have you at every spot for that most part. And that game was going to come down to what could Michigan do that would help Indiana. And in that first quarter, you saw some of that. You saw a sputtering offense that wasn't very good to start. They gave up 2 or 3 sacks. IU had a couple drives. Now they turned the ball over on one, got the touchdown on the other, and but Michigan was going to have to do a lot more than just what they did in that first half to help IU along. Turn the ball over, which they didn't. Provide good field position for IU, which they didn't. They did not really give up any major chunk plays other than the one big one there to Jalen on the 44-yard touchdown pass. I think IU had 5 plays that were 15 yards or more. Michigan had at least 8 that were 15 yards or more, either run or pass. And so you were just going to have a lot of things that Michigan was going to have to do to help you along on the day. IU didn't run the ball very effectively. And when you can't run the ball very effectively against that type of defense, you're going to get one-dimensional, and all of a sudden you're putting the ball in the air too many times, and you're putting yourself in a position where 2 young quarterbacks aren't going to do the right things all the time. And that really showed their youthfulness showed pretty good in that second quarter, and then for about the rest of the game. But in that, I know there's been some talk here of late about this 2-quarterback system that they went back to here with Sorsby and Taven. And I think Coach Carey kind of alluded to the reasoning behind that is that, there was no really true productivity coming from Taven in the games that he had started. And they were trying to find whether or not playing 2 of them, that one of them would rise to the top and take the bull by the horns, so to speak. But these are some of the challenges they faced all the way dating back to some of the last spring into the fall camp. Neither one of them as a young quarterback, has really stepped forward and really taken advantage of the opportunity. There's some things that have prohibited that too, as well, in all fairness, with the offensive line in some of that respect. And then you have a change of coordinators, and, those things don't help that situation. But I've never been opposed to playing two quarterbacks. Sometimes it becomes a feel thing as who goes in when. Maybe determines on who's playing well or how that's going. But I think the reality of the matter is they're going to have to look at it differently now at that position. Is how does that position intertwine with the run game? And in some respects, I think that's where Sorsby probably gives you a little bit better quarterback run scenarios than Taven does. And I do believe that Sorsby has a pretty good arm as well, strong arm. But because the way he can run the football, and it showed a couple times during this game, that I gotta feel that maybe going with Sorsby may be the right answer because of what IU lacks in the run game. And there's where I think Sorsby maybe has a little bit of an edge over Taven at this point. Taven is a good quarterback. He's got a really good arm. He's more of a pro type, drop back, throw it type of guy. But right now his throwing has not been overly productive. He's not made some good decisions with the ball. At times, I think there are times where he's trying to do too much in the pocket and overthinking the throws. Couple throws on Saturday, it really showed in that regard. But I think Sorsby right now gives you a little bit better options to utilize in the run game and the quarterback run stuff that you can script in and utilize to offset what you may lack with Henderson or Jalen back there. I know that Henderson's coming back this week. I think that's what they said. So we'll have to see what that evolves into here. The first half of the season's over. They finished 2-4, not where they wanted to be. If you go back and really look at it, they got the one versus Akron and Indiana State, even though the Akron game was an overtime game that Indiana probably should not have won, but they found a way to do it. They lost to a really good Ohio State team. They've lost to a Maryland team that now has stumbled twice, as they lost to Illinois here this past weekend, which was a pretty good upset in my opinion. So, there's two losses that they have. They lost to Michigan, so two of their losses were to two top 5 programs, and you throw Maryland into the mix, who was in the top 15, I believe, at the time in the country. So you've lost 3 games to top tier programs in that regard. And so when you sit back and look at it this first half, 2-4, the Maryland game, you wish you probably had back in some regards, but the best they were going to hope for coming out of that was going to be 3-3. Maybe if the dice falls well, you're 4-2. But they lost to Louisville when they had a chance. Had they not been able to, they weren't able to find a way to get the ball in the end zone from the freaking 2-yard line. So there's a game that they should have won. So the reality of it is they're probably no better than 3-3. And they're 2-4 now. So you put that on the back burner and you focus here on the next 6 ball games. You got Rutgers coming in this weekend. Then you have Penn State. Then after that, you've got 4 or 5 games left there to really figure out what all is going to be overall record for Indiana on the year. Rutgers is a big game. There's a lot riding on that game as it pertains to potential bowl bids. And the only way they can potentially get there is to beat Rutgers on Saturday. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But when you look moving forward, offense, they gotta find a run game. However they do that, whether it's with Sorsby in there and finding ways to utilize his abilities in the quarterback run stuff, as well as Henderson and what they give you in Lucas. Passing game wise, it has to be quick. It has to be some play action pass. It's got to be boots and things of that nature. The offensive line is just not geared up to be a team that's going to drop back and run developing routes down the field too much. You're not going to run the conventional USA route of a post dig cross route and get a lot of success out of it. But that's what they got to be moving forward here these last 6 games. And I don't necessarily think it's possible to play 2 quarterbacks, but I'm not saying it's not unheard of. Whatever gives you the best chance to win, and however that looks, whether it's 1 guy or 2 guys, so be it. Quarterback, garners all the attention, but you can see that they play multiple receivers. They play multiple people up front sometimes, and it's a production-based business. If you're not producing as a player or playing good, you're not going to get that many snaps. I mean, it's just the reality of the situation. And right now at quarterback, neither one of them are doing all that great. Now, Dexter Williams is kind of the guy that is in the background right now. I know that he's steadily coming along. I think they even took him on the trip and possibly could use him as an emergency situation. So there leads some positive situations there on maybe him coming back into the fray here as they move on down the road, but we'll have to wait and see on that. But if they've got to find a way to run the ball and then utilize the passing game with quick passes, get the ball in and out of the hands of the quarterback to help out those offensive linemen as it kind of goes. But take a quick look at some of these highlights from Saturday just here. Let me see if I can get her back up here. Okay. And we'll let some of this run its course, but kind of one of the first plays of the game here. Here's a good example of getting the ball in and out of your hands from an offensive perspective. Quick game, good throw, good catch, 2nd and 5 there, moving the chains down the road. Here's the one that I just, this is after the penalty, and I want you to watch this guy right here. I think that may be Jalen here. You got a tight end that's going to come out here and kind of run a hard sit. He's going to end up running a seam route, and I think he's got him for a touchdown up here that he misses. And I'm not sure who he was throwing to here, because if he's throwing to the tight end, it's a horrible ball. And if he's throwing to him, it's a horrible ball because it was so badly underthrown. But if you look at this, protection-wise, not too bad. You talk about that bowl that you like to get in here. That's not bad. But I'm not sure where he's throwing the football here. I mean, that's the whole thing that I don't understand. Where are you going, bud? I mean, look at this throw. I mean, this is a touchdown. You can't tell me he hasn't made these throws. He has. And I just think in that situation, he should be thinking, for the most part, right here, it's a man-free set. They're rotating this way. He's kind of playing the inside. This is a backer. He's going to have him over the top, man. Let her eat. And that's a touchdown. I mean, to me, that's more of a miss. That's more of an MA than anything on that particular play for him. Now, here's Sorsby in the game. This is a nice job here. They're going to run a boot into this naked here, and I would assume the reality of this is you like to get out of this. You got two coming off the edge, and this is not looking good from the start. But he does a good job there of faking it and then getting up the field and getting what he can. Nice little play there to get the positive yardage. Here's a little quick screen out to Jalen. Again, good timing, quick throw, good blocking on the outside until this guy gets turned, and he's got to stay square against that defender. Don't get turned. And here's the double pass. This was almost he almost threw this into the dirt. And McCauley does a good job of getting his hands underneath it and throwing a strike to Jalen there, and making a nice throw and catch. And this is kind of from behind. Again, nice job out there by Bamba and the other wide receiver there, protecting like they had. Okay, Michigan comes back. Good protection. This is just a heck of a throw. IU's kind of doing a different type of coverage there, and he rips it in between the corner and the safety. There's not much you can say there. Here's a pretty innovative play. They're going to take the wide receiver. They've got their full tight end unit in the ball game, kind of a unbalanced situation, and they use the wide out to run an isolation play for a big 10-yard gain there. So good play by Michigan. And then down here, I mean, this is what you talk about of having a mentality on the goal line. They run a blast play, and he's, basically untouched going into the end zone. Here's kind of the replay of it. It's basically down block. He's going to come and kick out. This guy's going to lead through, and it's 6 points. Good job by the fullback there. Not very good by the safety filling in the hole there. Now here's one. I don't know how this guy gets this wide open. When you look at this, they're kind of playing a man free. So they're man to man. And that corner at the top, I don't know if he just kept running, but this wideout, I mean, there's 15 yards between him and the next guy. That's the tough part on that one. So that wasn't good. Here comes a kind of a double move scenario where they're kind of what we call a sluggo route at the top. This guy's going to run a slant and go. It's actually defended pretty well. And then this is just a mismatch in height and size, and he throws back shoulder, and they make a play. Not much you can do there from the wider receiver standpoint. Again, okay, here's the goal line play. This is 4th and goal. Okay, it's a 7-7 ball game. This is a big play in the game. Their man. Their man. I mean, you can see this guy's got him. He's got him. He's got him. He's got the back. He's got him. 2 of these guys are going to come wide open. These guys, I have no idea what they're doing. These guys are dropping as if it's zone. I mean, that's bad. I mean, it's going to be tough the way they run this and orchestrate this play, because he's going to come in motion and go. So you're going to have some type of switch off call here to really get it covered. But these guys both turn, don't move, and they go this way, and this guy comes right over here, and this guy comes right over here. And he had his choice of either one of them. I mean, it's not even close. That, to me, is a head scratcher. That's kind of the deer in the headlight scenario, playing in front of 100,000 people. Here's the punt return that really cost them. 14-7, less than 2 minutes left in the half. Good kick. You're down here, and you got to make a play. He overruns him. Keep him on your inside shoulder. So he overruns him. He's out of it. This guy's got to make the play. Nope. So that player alone right there sets up their next score essentially. And again, there's some times on here where kids make plays, they don't know what they're doing, but here's a perfect call. You're bringing an extra body from this side to make the play. He's got to make the play. He doesn't make the play. And next thing you know, McCarthy's scooting out. He sees the tailback. He shovels it forward and gets it down to the 2. And again, they just run that blast play to get the next points on it. Third quarter, this will be the last one I show you here. Again, IU's running man coverage or man free, essentially. He's got him. Looks like he's going to swap with this guy. So stay in coverage. Okay? So everything's good here. Stay in coverage, young man. Stay in coverage. Stay in coverage. JJ even tells him to go deep. Stay in coverage. He just passes him off and comes up like he's going to make the play. Dude, you're essentially 8 yards away from it. And he lets him go. There's nobody left. And that's a cheap score. That's a hard pill to swallow. That type of play right there is a hard pill to swallow in that type of game with that scenario there, giving up a cheap score like that. And that is not coaching. That's a player that's doing his own thing. That's not playing and reading his keys. His man responsibilities was to cover Loveland, cover him. If he goes to goes to the concession stand to get a Coke and a hot dog, you go there and buy it for him. You don't fall off of him in man coverage and let him go down the field wide open. That's not coaching. That's mental. That's somebody's not doing their job. And that's some of the things that you see with some of these mistakes. And I understand that, everybody wants to point that finger to the coaching staff at times, but that right there is not a coaching problem. That's a player problem that's not doing his responsibility. And I guarantee you, all week defensively, when they said we're in man coverage, stay in coverage, stay in coverage, stay in coverage, and he gets caught with his eyes in the backfield, 88 out the gate, J.J. McCarthy's directing traffic, tells his big tight end, Loveland, to go deep, and he hits him in stride, and next thing you know, it's 28-7. So you can see some of these things that IU's facing right now is some youthfulness. It's some guys that are trying to do too much. There's some guys that have to understand you have to trust the other 10 guys out on the field with you, and you cannot try to make up for somebody else that you think's making a mistake, because that ultimately compounds the situation. So you got 6 games left. You got Rutgers coming in. We'll take a look at them on Thursday, but, realistic goal for them the rest of the year, these last 6 games, 4-2, get your 6 wins, get into a bowl game, maybe go 5-1. If you get yourself on a hot streak and you start feeling like you can beat everybody, who knows what can happen. But you got Rutgers, then you go to Penn State, and then you come back and you got some teams that you've got to feel like you got opportunities to win those games, but you have to play at a high level, and you can't be making the same old mistakes and mistakes again that compound the situation, because that's what you're seeing right now. So we're going to take an approach that, first half of the season's done. You rinse it, you throw it away. You're 2-4. You can't do anything about it. It's what you do from this point going forward with 6 games left in the season, and they can get themselves potentially into bowl eligibility if they can do some of these simple things and small things and think about what they're doing and get themselves going as a football team. They got good players. They got kids that can make plays. Coaches have to put them in the positions to make plays. I believe they can do that. Now it's time for these kids to step forward now. There's no more excuses. There's no more, I'm a rookie. You just graduated. You're a sophomore, you're a junior, you're a fifth year senior, however you want to put it, put on your big boy pants and play some big time football. So we'll take a look at Rutgers and Coach Schiano and what he's done in a short period of time to get his club into a pretty good situation. They beat Michigan State coming from behind this past Saturday. So they've got a lot of positive energy coming into Bloomington this Saturday. They got a pretty darn good quarterback that IU's really going to have to devise a defensive scheme for him and try to eliminate his ability as that running and throwing type of quarterback that he is. So we'll take a look at Rutgers on Thursday. I want to thank you for joining me here tonight. Thanks again to Bet Online for their sponsorship of the Hoosier Football Tailgate here on the Believe Network. Remember, use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, and you can get up to 50% on your first deposit with betonline.ag. Remember, they are the number one source for all things sports wagering. BetOnline is where the game starts. Well, thank you again for joining me here again on the Hoosier Football Tailgate. I am the coach, Shannon Griffith. We'll catch you on Thursday night. Good night, everybody.